Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our daily word. It's Wednesday, the middle of the week of this second week of the month of October. God could join me for our continued conversation through our daily word, and it's pull on us as we live our lives and how it affects us in our lives, and it's our hope that as we hear these words daily, weekly, that it somehow impacts us and changes our life and helps us to respond better as life comes at us. And so here we are again, gathering. It's Wednesday morning. Of course, I just got back from Fairlawn High School. Probably all of you know I do all the announcing there. Last night, I went there and I was late because I got behind a combine and it was senior night. And so Mr. Steckley, the high school principal, got it started for me and introduced the seniors from the other team, which we always recognize the other team seniors. And then I got there and went running up there, and he came down to me with the microphone and the papers and said, "And now I'm going to turn it over to the longtime voice of the Jets." And that was kind of fun. And then this morning I went there because today was their annual Powder Puff football game. Junior girls versus senior girls, and junior boys and senior boys were cheerleaders, and I went there to announce the football game. It was a lot of fun, and so it's one of the great pleasures I have in my life to get to do those kinds of things at the high school. And so this morning's text is again a short verse, 2 Corinthians 5, verse 16. We hear these words: "So from now on, we regard no one from a worldly point of view. Though we once regarded Christ in this way, we do so no longer." Now, the worldly point of view that Paul talks to the church in Corinth about, I just wanted to say this. I was thinking about this driving here. You know, these letters that Paul writes to the churches in Colossae and in Philippians, the church in Ephesus, the letters are remarkable, right? They have this profound love of the people that are there, this profound giving nature, and Paul just cares for them in such a way that he wants them to hear this instruction. And I think it's interesting that we hear this instruction and now we use it, and I use it. I'm not Paul, don't hear me wrong, but we use these words and I try to use them to help us, in our faith journey. So the world point of view that Paul first talks about is a point of view about taking charge, about being in control, about using the things or the people around you to achieve your own agenda and pursue your own ends. And that's the worldly point of view. And, we see it all the time in the world. People use people. And we see that in politics a lot. It's disturbing, if you ask me. People use people to get where they want to get. And it's an interesting thing that we have going on. And I don't know, maybe it's always been there, but it feels rampant in this 24-hour news bite cycle that we have. But Paul, when he was confronted by Christ on the road to Damascus and his life was forever changed, he realized that he could no longer have this lifestyle, that he had to live differently. He had to put his faith first in Jesus and be submissive to God's will in his life. And so we hear this, and he instructs the Corinthians to view our religion in a different kind of way. Not in a way that achieves our own agenda and that pursues our own life's end, but Paul reminds us that we should look at each other. We should be with each other in a religion, in a spiritual, in a scriptural kind of way. We have to view God and view others differently, because when we view each other, and here's what I think is disturbing, I guess, about this whole thing. When we view each other from a worldly point of view, that's when division and derision and hatred is sown, because we just trample over the top of each other. But when we adopt God's point of view in this, we can see the opportunity to live life in unity, to live life with the truth that's in us all. So we not regard no one from a worldly point of view. We see them, we see each other, we interact with each other from a godly point of view. And that carries over into everything that we do. I mean, I like to think, so this whole powder puff thing, this whole conversation started a couple of weeks ago at a volleyball game. And one of the young lady who's a junior who keeps the book said, Jim, you should come announce our powder puff game. It's next Tuesday. And I said, okay, but somebody in charge, somebody with authority needs to ask me. And so she said, okay, well, I hadn't heard anything, so I thought I wasn't going to be asked, which would have been fine. But I got a text on Monday morning, so Jim, can you come do our powder puff game? It starts at 8 o'clock. And I said, yep, I will be there. And oh yeah, don't forget tomorrow night, senior night. Yep, I will be there. And the teacher who heads this up said to me, Jim, they were so excited that you were coming to announce all of this. They were so thrilled that Jim was coming. The voice of the Jets, again, that got said. And I got to thinking about that in relation to this, that we see each other, from a Christ point of view. And that whether it's in worship or driving down the street or the soccer game where I was last night or the powder puff game where I was today, there is this reminder, that we should revere and honor each other as we honor Christ, that we should recognize Christ's presence in everybody we encounter. That's a blessing, that I think that we've been given, that we have to just use that, to share with others. Tonight we begin confirmation. I'm so excited to begin our confirmation journey again with the young people who are going to be in my class. And you'll see some pictures if you're on Facebook with me or the church Facebook page. We'll take pictures of the Christ candle in our feet tonight, a reminder of the journey that we're going to be on, and that we're going to have a covenant with each other. And importantly, we're going to look at each other not from a worldly point of view, but we're going to talk about what it means to look at each other from a Christ point of view. And that's really what I think we're called to in these days, and what God wants us to do, and who God calls us to be. And I realized this morning early when I was driving to Fairlawn, I know I'm preaching to the choir. You and I, we already try, right? But then I thought, well, maybe you preach to the choir, you and I, and then the choir has to share it with somebody else. I hope that we do that. I hope that you and I share this with someone else as we live our lives. So that's the daily word for today. Hope it helps you as it helps me in our daily walk through life. Thanks for joining me. Know of God's love that surrounds you. Know of my love for all of you. And I'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Have a great day.